Can you dig it? Bears fan. Justin Fields.
I dig that we got a quarterback. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Windy City Digits. That's Vic. I'm Carl. Video today this episode is going to be focused on QB1.
He is the QB number one, man.
QB1. And quickly shooting up the QB rankings in the league.
Darn straight, man.
So you've prepared quite a presentation for us tonight, Professor.
A presentation.
Yeah.
Hey. All right, buddy. So we're going to look at Justin Fields comparing his stats through 9 games from last year and then this year.
Okay.
All right. Not exactly the best comparison, I would say, but he actually played one game. I think it was against the Rams. He barely played, but I included it in the whole scope. So if you look at last year's stats compared to this year, what do you see that pops?
The completion percentage.
So it's actually the completion percentage is down.
I know, compared to last year.
Yeah, the completion percentage is down. His yards are up. But you could see that his TD to interception ratio is better, and he's actually, instead of kicking field goals, we're actually getting into the end zone. So that's a positive.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is look at the amount of sacks.
4 more sacks this year.
Yeah, 4 more sacks this year, and we were worried about we knew the line was bad. We thought maybe they could get a little better this year, but they're no better than last year. They may even be worse in some areas. Pass protection, or is that Justin Fields, his growing pains?
I'll go back to the same thing I've been saying all along. It's the play calling. The first 4 games of this year and all of last year, I would say that Nagy last year and Getsy this year early on was trying to make him a pocket passer and kept him in the pocket, which added to a lot of the sacks. Some of that is the offensive line. Some of that is not really playing to his strengths. But
some of it is him holding on the ball too long at times.
But I'd be curious, out of those numbers, right? If you took the slice out of the last 3 games, those numbers would be pretty staggering, I would think. Right?
Yep.
I mean, the number of touchdowns he had over the last 3 games, the number of yards he had passing over the last 3 games, the amount of rushing for sure. And the last 3 games would have beat all of those 9 games last year. He almost beat it just this week alone with 178. Right?
Yeah, look at his yards rushing from last year to this year.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's because they wanted him to stay in the pocket.
Yes.
They didn't want him to run. So that's what I think, like we talked about in one of our previous videos, like some of that is where the digits kind of lie a little bit. They don't tell the whole story.
I agree. And they're finally playing to his strengths. So I think that's why we've had some increased success. But his QB rating is 85 compared to 69.4 last year through 9 games. That's quite a bit of difference, man.
Well, again, I think it's part of that is because if you look over the last couple of weeks, they haven't been hanging. He's been getting rid of the ball within like 2, 3, 4 seconds. Like he's getting out of the ball out quick, which is getting those shorter completions. I mean, look at the way they used Claypool this week, right? A couple of quick completions to him. Mooney, a couple of quick shots. Very few deep balls that he's actually had time to throw or actually attempted, right? So, and some of them should have been PIs, which counted against him, right? But yeah, I mean, again, still improvement over last year.
Yeah. So, but you're talking about the comparison of the first 4 or 5 games to the last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
So, with that respect, all right. So,
look at that.
I know it's kind of bizarre though. Like I probably should have done the first four versus the last five, and that would have been more eye opening. But he's actually his completion percentage definitely better, 62%.
Mhm.
His TDs, the interceptions is great. His sacks have gone down. Look at the QB rating now,
Yeah.
95.9. And in fact, three of his last five games, he was over 100 in QB rating.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
look, this week alone, he had 3 touchdown passes.
yeah, I know. I mean, just really good increased success. And I believe you're absolutely correct in terms of they're just using him the right way, but also the fact that he just looks more confident.
Um, yeah, look, it's something where the game they always talk about this when you transition from college to the pros, the game's got to slow down for you. And
Uh-huh.
once the game kind of slows down, you kind of get a handle or a grasp. I mean, we've seen the memes, right, where you see Justin Fields on the sideline, just kind of sitting there without a whole lot of emotion, just kind of doing his yoga breathing and all that stuff and his Zen stuff on the sideline, right?
Yep.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but it does look like the game is slowing down for him. It does look like he's able to make better reads. But again, I think it's where they're purposely trying to get him the ball out quick, and they're getting him on the rollout. And he's like, okay, I'm looking at one guy, I'm looking at a second guy. If they're not there, I'm out. I'm out of here. Like
Hmm.
I'm running. So and also I think also having the designed runs, I think helps them a lot too.
I agree. Absolutely. And there's the media. I mean, I think they were killing the Bears earlier in those first 4 or 5 games. And okay, so one of the things, when was the last time we had a Bears quarterback that had any kind of records? Who would it have been? Bobby Douglas, maybe?
Well, Vince Evans had the record for rushing before Justin broke it this week. It was Vince Evans that had the rushing records, and that's kind of dating ourselves a little bit because most
Most.
newer Bears fans since '85 don't even know who Vince Evans is. He was my favorite player. He was my favorite player growing up, next to Walter Payton. But it's been a while. I mean, look, over the years, I mean, Eric Kramer had some passing records for the Bears. I think Jim Miller had a couple passing records.
Hmm.
But
Even Jay Cutler, I think he was in Bears history had the most passing
most
yards
in
for.
passing yards, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, that's over a course of multiple years, right? I mean, we're
Correct.
talking about a player in a year and a half.
Yeah, Justin Fields is more dynamic than Jay Cutler. Obviously, he's got better tools than Jay Cutler would ever have.
Well, he's got better tools, but again, like Jay Cutler was a pocket passer,
Yeah.
right? That's
Hmm.
that's was his thing. Like he was expected to throw 300-400 yards a game, right? I'll be honest, like I would love for Justin to get to that point to where like he's
Hmm.
a 300-yard passer per game. I
Yep.
just don't know if he's ever going to get to that point. Like I don't know if that's really what you're going to design you might be able to develop the weapons,
Hmm.
right? But it's like Kyler Murray and some of these other mobile quarterbacks. Other than Allen up in Buffalo, you don't expect those guys to throw 300 yards week in and week out.
No, I don't expect him to throw that many yards too, especially with how effective our running game is,
Yeah,
with or without him. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't. I could see him throwing 300 yards from time to time, but it's not going to be a regular occurrence. And
yeah. Look,
if it does, man, that means either we've got some higher talent on our
yeah,
club. I mean, like maybe we're giving him more time at the line, and they're changing the offense to uh, to allow for that.
yeah.
And then look at all right. So you were talking about highest deep pass percentage. Okay, so this was top five. This was in October, by the way. So it
Mhm.
was mid-October. He was number one of throwing the deep ball in mid-October. I'm sure that's gone down since they've kind of changed some of their play calling. But people who have been saying that he can't throw a deep ball is absolutely incorrect. Maybe
Okay,
maybe he
but
hasn't been as accurate.
yeah, that number that doesn't make sense to me. Does that mean the number of deep passes he's thrown or the number of deep passes he's completed?
No, that's how many he's thrown. That doesn't mean that he's completed them.
Okay.
No, but it is saying that they're taking more shots down the field than we would think he has.
Well, I think it's a little deceiving,
It
right?
is. Yeah, it
Because
absolutely is.
because if you
That
look at
doesn't
because if you look at the two guys on that list, Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers at the bottom of that list, those guys are throwing like
50 passes a game.
correct.
Well, not that many, but yeah, they're throwing a higher percentage. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. But you also see some other things. Justin Fields compared to the cohort that was drafted that year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only guy that is playing around him is Trevor Lawrence, and this was prior to this last game.
Yeah. Well, look, Trevor Lawrence is also in one of those situations where he's playing for a new coordinator this year, really an offensive guy, but he's got players around him. Like he's got a running back, he's got receivers,
Mm-hmm.
a decent offensive line. So I can understand where like you would think Trevor Lawrence would have higher numbers because he does have decent players around him and a line to protect him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And Justin's doing it. No disrespect to the guys on the line right now, right? On the O line, but he's doing it without necessarily a highly rated or highly ranked offensive line.
Absolutely, especially for passing. I
Yeah.
agree. And then look at I mean, he's got Justin Field has more rushing yards than look at the group of players. Look at that. Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
I mean, McCaffrey, I get. Eckler and Kamara, Fournette, Najee Harris. I mean, and you're right. You could probably pick that apart depending on injuries. What else is going on in those teams, but quite impressive for a quarterback on the Bears.
Yeah, I think that's more impressive that he's got more numbers, higher numbers than Mixon and Eckler, who are basically full-time players.
Right.
Kamara's been in and out of the lineup. Fournette really isn't a featured back with Brady.
No.
Najee Harris, he's part of that Pittsburgh offense that, had money Mitch Trubisky as its quarterback, and now they went to the rookie. So I think it's more impressive with Mixon and Eckler in that list. Yeah, for sure. That's impressive.
And then we look at some of what the media is saying. Rex Ryan has the highest ceiling by far of any quarterback out there.
Yep.
I don't know what you think about Rex Ryan.
I like Rex Ryan a lot. I think he's experienced. I think he's got valid points when I see him on ESPN. So how is he as an evaluator of talent? Maybe more on the defensive side because I know he's a defensive guy. But still, nonetheless, I mean, compared to the beginning of the year where there was a lot of questions about Justin Fields, I think any kind of praise they're getting from these pundits, I think is pretty good.
I agree. Yeah, it's changed. It's changed within the last month. Everybody's been saying how he's improved, and this Miami game really changed the media's perception of Justin Fields. So you see Jacob Infante saying he's the best rushing back, not named Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
And then Seth Walder here. These are all guys that are pretty well known around football. He is the highest quarterback among all NFC North quarterbacks, which is saying a ton. But you got Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, both veteran quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins only lost one game this year, and he's got Justin Jefferson. And they just added the tight end from Detroit.
Hawkinson.
Yeah, Hawkinson. Thank you. So, and he's also got a running back in there. So he's got an established offense, a line, receivers, running back. So and they've only lost one game. So for him to have that kind of rating, especially I think his first couple games, his rating wasn't that great.
It was terrible.
like the first two or
Yeah,
three games, right? So
he might have had a 40 in there at one of the games.
yeah,
Yeah,
Walter's
Washington.
right. Great turnaround.
Washington was terrible.
Yeah.
Um, Another one, Brian Baldinger saying best could be the best QB of Bears
Now,
history.
if anyone's been paying attention to Baldinger, Baldy's been saying since week one that he thought the Bears had a quarterback. He thought they had a coaching staff. He thought they were heading in the right direction. He loves Tevin Jenkins and what Tevin Jenkins is doing on the line. Um, so he's not a guy that's Johnny come lately, right? He's been a guy that's been behind this Bears program since week one, and he got ripped early on. Like you're not watching the same games we're watching, but Baldinger since week one has been on that Bears bandwagon.
Yeah, I saw a poll out there I think it was today. Who would you say is the MVP of offense for the Bears? The MVP for the team so far? And I couldn't say anybody else but Justin Fields.
Well, if you're looking over the whole season, right? I mean, I think both running backs need a little bit of credit in there because they were running the ball effectively. And I think on the offensive line, Tevin Jenkins for sure has to be in that conversation, right? I mean, even when Justin Fields wasn't playing that well in the beginning of the season, Tevin Jenkins was just pancaking people right from the get-go. And keep in mind that he's had a position change. He went from tackle to guard, which in the NFL isn't the easiest thing to do because, anyone that's played the line or anything knows about offensive football knows that the calls are different. The way you're guarding, your stance, your footwork, everything's different. So
Tevin Jenkins was another popular vote on that poll, by the way. And then we can't forget about Luke Getsy. What exactly you said is Luke Getsy is using him the way that with the special skills that he finally learned how to use them the right way.
Yeah. I don't know if it was learning to use them the right way. I don't know if it was, someone had a talk with them and saying like, look, let's modify this a little bit, and then once they started to have some success, look, I get it where early on it's the beginning of the season. You don't want Justin Fields running left, running right, and potentially getting hurt and having a season-ending injury early on, especially with the way that the line, they were just kind of juggling people into place, right? And people getting used to this new offense. But it just seems like not only Justin Fields, but it seems like the line, I mean, Sam Mustipher over the last couple of weeks, I think has gotten a lot better. I mean, people may not agree with that, but you don't hear his name called as much, and you don't see the Twitter feeds where like, oh, Sam Mustipher didn't block anyone.
No, you're right.
He seems to be better. The line just seems to be solid. And Braxton Jones over on that left tackle, he doesn't always get highly graded, but you don't hear his name. He's not getting called for flags. He's not giving up, a whole lot of sacks. He's not getting beat left and right. So I think just the whole offense in general, and they're taking after Justin, obviously, but before, like, I don't know how it was with you, but like when the game started and we got the ball first, our first possession, I was always curious. Are we going run, pass, and then 3 and out?
Yep.
Right. And now I can't wait for the offense to get out there.
Yeah, it was exciting. And you could see just on the bottom here, Matt G posted this. These were just quotes from the Miami side of the ball the other day.
It's funny because I saw someone commenting on this today, the fact that, these guys, and Tua was in there also, like they were all, kind of joking and laughing about these comments, like how much of a baller Justin Fields was. Yeah, you can be happy about it because you won the game. Had you lost the game, I don't know if some of these comments are coming out, I don't know if they're going to be like, it's going to be more like, oh man, we should have won that game, more frustrating. But because those guys won the game, they're able to kind of be vocal a little bit about what they thought about Fields.
Yeah, but we've got a good quarterback on our hands. Would you say you're happy about him over Mitch Trubisky? Because you're a big Mitch Trubisky fan.
It's a different skill. It's a different skill set, but I can't help but to think what we know now about Nagy, right? I mean, I thought about this the other night. Nagy must have brought his offense to Kansas City because Patrick Mahomes looks awful now. Like
Mhm.
they can't score. I don't know what the deal is, but for 4 quarters the other night, they struggled. Like, I was almost like watching the Bears again. And Nagy's on the sideline, like talking to Mahomes. I'm like, what are you telling him? You know, like, are you telling him?
He's a new quarterback whisperer.
Right. So, like, and I think Mitch always got a bad rap, and I think he's getting a bad rap in Pittsburgh too, because the Pittsburgh players, they drafted a Pittsburgh rookie. They want the Pittsburgh kid to play, and the kid's been terrible. Like, the kid's been awful. And so I think Mitch hasn't gotten a fair shot in Pittsburgh. But I can't help but to wonder when he was in Chicago, if Nagy had kind of taken the same approach, like, let's use Mitch's strengths. Like, you don't go from being a Pro Bowl quarterback in your first full season to being garbage, like the next 2 seasons, because you just degraded in talent. No, it should be the other way around. You should be moving up, but that's on the coaching, right? That's Mitch's document. He talked about, like, hey, he showed up to these meetings and Nagy wasn't even there. Like, Nagy's like, let's talk and let's meet, and Nagy didn't even show up.
I know. Well, now we've got a real good offensive coordinator. We've got a powerful quarterback at the helm, and with additional weapons, a restructured offensive line for next year. There's nothing but up for this Bears quarterback and this Bears team.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now, I would say, is that it's going to be interesting over the next 8 weeks how much they're going to develop. It looks like the Komet thing is working, right? It's going to be interesting how much they get N'Keal Harry and Chase Claypool into that offense, and Pringle's going to come back. And let's see how now you're going to have 4 or 5 receivers deep. Let's see how that works out.
Yeah, baby.
All right. So thanks for tuning in to this video. If you haven't had a chance yet, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell to get notified on future episodes. We do appreciate everyone's been watching and tuning in to the channel. But again, hit that like, because that definitely helps us out a lot. We will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Love.
And digit.